A quick disclaimer. Green Team received an arc of Chronicles of Whetherwhy, The Age of Enchantment by Anna James, illustrated by David Wyatt, courtesy of NetGalley and Penguin Young Readers Group. We thank them for the early copy for review. All opinions are our own. The Age of Enchantment release is on May 6th, 2025. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team, where we cover the books the main team can't keep up with. I'm your host, Cesky, and today I am joined by BefuddledPanda.
Hello.
And I'm also joined by Lady Cesky.
Hey.
Glad you could make it for this book. Today, we are going to be covering an arc that we got for a book, The Age of Enchantment by Anna James, part of the Chronicles of Whetherwhy series. And it's by an author who primarily writes a lot of children's book. Her main other series is the Book Smugglers or the Pages and Company. Lady Cesky, you've read all of those books. Did you like them?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I read the first two, and I really, really enjoyed like how whimsical and such like great imagination. So I was very, very excited to get the arc of her newest middle grade fantasy series.
I was excited too. So let's start off with it. A scale of 1 to 5. Did you like it, and kind of where do you rate it? Panda, do you want to go first?
Sure. I ultimately gave it a 3. I was a little disappointed in parts, and granted, I am a full-grown woman. I am not the target audience for this book, but I do read quite a bit of middle grade fantasy, so I'm usually pretty forgiving and understand like this is written for a younger audience. But I still had a few qualms with it, which we'll talk about probably more in the spoiler section. But overall, it was fun. It did a good job setting up the world for this new series. So looking forward to chatting about it.
Perfect. I am going to probably give it, as an adult, a 3. If I was a kid reading this, probably a 4 to a 4.25.
Okay.
I thought it was really whimsical. I thought it was really fun. The plot kind of stays true to what a kid's book should be, where the kids are left to do the exploring and to grow and understand as they read the book. So I really liked that. It felt a little rushed at the end, I think, even for my kid brain, right? That it's just so much at the end. And we can talk about that a little bit more as to why it feels that way. But that was kind of the feeling I was getting. So that's where I give it. Lady Cesky, what do you want to give it?
I would give it a higher rating. That's a 4.5. If I was a child, I would probably give it a 5.
Nice.
But, I mean, I also am a full-grown adult. However, I am a full-grown sleep-deprived adult with little kids at home. And so, the simpler a book is, the better for me right now. So I really, really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Just in its simplicity, and yeah, I would use the word whimsical as well.
Great. So we'll try and keep this non-spoilery for a few minutes just so that we can kind of talk about it. But I don't think it's very spoilery to say that this book, the magic system of the book is an elemental magic. You're born in a season, spring, summer, fall, or winter. That kind of corresponds to what kind of magic you are best at or can do, or what kind of magic you can do if you're special, what kind of magic you're best at. Did you guys feel like this magic was done well? Was there kind of obvious problems? And we don't have to go into details, but just as a non-spoilery, like, how did you guys feel about the magic in the book?
Can I correct you?
Lady Cesky?
Yes,
You,
I can.
You said that you were born into a season. That's not how it is.
Okay, that's true. you just have a season.
Like an affinity.
An affinity for
it's
the
like
season.
you're kind of, you're not born into a season. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so what else did you like the magic? Did you think the magic was too simple, too advanced?
I really liked the magic system for the target audience of this book. I don't think I've ever read another season/weather magic book before. So it was very new, a kind of a new idea for me. So I really enjoyed it because of that.
Yeah, I agree. It was refreshing. It's like there was enough structure for it to feel more plausible and real, but it was still pretty squishy. I like soft magic where there's still things that can surprise you and just, you kind of go with the flow and it's more open. So, I really like elemental magic. So this was like right up my alley.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm of mixed decisions. I think it's a very unique system, where it's elemental but with seasons kind
Right.
of magic, right? My adult brain just keeps ticking though, and it felt like any magic could do anything. So they say, here's spring, you're good at growing things, or the start of new things, or
Mhm.
but then you could say like, well, it's spring, so it's good at finding secrets because new things come to light, or but then
Mhm.
it's also like, well, that's also fall because they are revealing, or so no criticism. Like this is the minorest of criticisms I'm giving. It just felt a little bit too open
Squishy.
ended. That yeah, a little bit too squishy that anybody can do anything within as long as you can theme it to your season. Then you
Yeah,
can make it work kind of. But like I said, that's a very minor nitpick and not worth debating on too long.
I
sure.
mean, in the real world, though, seasons overlap.
That is true.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
they
we're
So,
have
not talking
ember
about
days
real worlds.
that, like, no, they talk about, like, the transitioning from one season to another, and they have a
If the
whole day to celebrate
special
it.
magic only happened on Ember Day, then I guess I could agree with that. But all right, in a broad stroke for no spoilers, how did you feel about our characters? I liked our characters. I think one character starts strong, basically becomes a 2-year-old in the middle of the book, and then by the end of the book, maybe becomes back to being a 14 to 15-year-old teenager.
Is
But
that
other
how
than that,
old
I
they
thought
are?
they're 13.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
they're 13 to
13,
13.
14, 13 when they get
Yeah,
their
yeah,
magic.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so 13-year-olds actually. I was a year I had 14 in my mind. But broadly, how did you guys feel like the characters were? Were they the good mix? Were they well written? Did you feel like they were just too on the nose? Panda, I see you got a smile on your face. Tell me about your character experience here.
I mean, overall, I really like the characters. I think I know which character you're talking about, comparing it to a two-year-old. I think that's a little harsh.
Okay, it is, but
But I see where you're coming from, and I'm excited to dive into that once we get into the spoilers. But overall, I really enjoyed they're just finding themselves. It's like coming of age, or at least the beginning of a coming of age story, and really just finding where they belong in this world, in their society, their magical society. And really, when you're growing up, you're learning that the things that, you were shielded from by your parents, by adults, you start to encounter them and you start to have questions, and the world isn't quite what you had thought it was. And I think that the characters overall navigated, especially the kids, overall navigated that pretty well in quite a believable way. And I think the kids, the middle graders reading this would be able to relate.
all right, I like it.
I really enjoyed the characters. I just like this book, so.
What do you think about the
No worries.
adults? Did you like
uh,
The
the adults
adult,
too?
I I thought there was a fun twist on the adults, and I don't know if it's spoilery or not, so I'm not going to say
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
I I have opinions and thoughts about the adults in this book, and when we get to the spoiler section very shortly, I'll divvy it out how to easily fix the problems in this book for an
Mm.
adult,
Oh my goodness. Are we
right? For
gonna
an
get a
adult.
Chesky rant?
No, it's not really a Chesky rant.
Oh.
It's a mini Chesky rant. Because, like I said, I did like the book. I just was like, there's a couple things where I was like, "You what? Like you just." I'll get into it later. So, it sounds like we all like the book. We'd all recommend it to, its intended target audience, middle grade. I think middle grade starts at well, I think we would aim at 10 to 13-year-olds with this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
Okay. So that's going to be our spoilery section or non-spoilery section. So if you're ready for the spoilers, you're welcome to listen in. If you haven't read the book yet, then I would advise waiting. We're going to talk about everything that happens in the book, rants and no rants alike. But all right, let's talk non-spoilery.
Spoilers.
Just give me, excuse me, the spoiler section now. I am so bad at this sometimes.
No, you're good.
The frame story is our first introduction to the series or to the book. Did you enjoy the frame story, Panda?
I wasn't quite sure what it was doing. So, you start off with like as if somebody is narrating, right?
Mhm.
And you're being introduced to the world of Whetherwhy and, understanding that there is magic on this island. Honestly, it's quite short, that section. So I was like, cool, cool, cool. And then next chapter. And then you don't get that narration until quite further in the story. So I had already forgotten about that part when I got to the first interlude. I was like, "What is this interlude?" So, but then the interludes after that were fairly frequent, especially, like, as you're getting to the climax and the
Mhm.
conflicts. So I think it was overall, like, I like the concept. I think the execution was a little unbalanced, where it was primarily more towards the end where you get more of the framing.
So I'll say mine. I thought it was fine. I especially liked the ending of the ending frame story where
Sure.
he reveals that he is also from Whetherwhy
Yeah, yeah,
with his
yeah.
snowflake pin. So I
Yeah,
really
the
liked that.
grandfather.
Yeah, the grandfather revealed it. And it also gave me serious Princess Bride themes or vibes
Yes.
because it's a grandpa reading to a bunch of kids. And so I was like, oh, this really is, I feel like it's trying to strike that Princess Bride thought, which is fine. It's fine. I could have done with like half as much or less or more spread out throughout the entire book rather than
Sure.
just at the end where it mostly is, it feels like. And that's feels like because I haven't gone and looked exactly. But Lady Chesky actually pointed something out to me about
Hey, you
the
can't
frame
steal my
story.
section.
I'm not, I'm passing it to you.
Oh, okay. Hopefully, I'm gonna say what you wanted me to say then.
Well, I don't know. You just say it.
Now you made me lose my train of thought. If I had a criticism of the book, this would be it. I felt like it
Mm,
was completely not needed. I feel like the only reason it was in there was to help maybe bridge for another book.
mm,
Maybe a little bit. But, oh, now I know it. Now I remember. So, the thing that I realized about, because kind of like Panda said, at the beginning you have it and then like you don't hear from the grandpa again till like middle of the book, and so
yeah.
you really are like, wait, oh yeah, like that did happen at the beginning of the book. So but I noticed every time that you change, like you would hear Juniper's side of the story and then it would go to grandpa, and then when the grandpa would resume the story it would then go to her twin brother Rafferty, and then
Mm,
it would go to grandpa, and then it would go back to Juniper. And so I think the whole purpose of it was for her to try and like change between character viewpoints. I
mhm.
don't know that that was executed super well though.
Okay.
That's just
I
in
I
my
agree.
opinion.
I agree with your assessment. I think the other potential, like, purpose for it is for, let's say, like, it's a younger reader, and because this book is quite dark, it's not all, sunshine and rainbows. It does deal with, like, parents dying, adults dying, and, like, a kid being, actually several kids being put in harm's way. So
Untrustworthy adults.
untrustworthy adults. So I think another purpose could be the author trying to help the younger reader, like, navigate through the darker parts. Like, why does Rafferty believe these, lying adults, like the grandchildren are kind of like the insert for the younger reader asking these questions. It's like the author anticipating this is what the reader might be
Mhm.
thinking and using the grandfather to help alleviate some of the frustration or intenseness of the situation and guiding them through, the conflicts.
Sure. I like it. Yeah. Perfect answer. So we've established our frame story. Should we talk about the actual story now?
Yeah.
All
You're
right.
gonna
Let me
give
give you
a
guys.
full summary of the
This is
story?
going to be a page by page recap. It's 100 and something page book, and I'm going to do it in 50 sentences or less. So no, this is our story. We're following a set of twins, following Juniper and Rafferty, who live on the island of Whetherwhy. On the island of Whetherwhy, everybody has magic corresponding to a season that you kind of learn and start maturing into it at the age of 13. There are also a select group of magic users called enchanters. They are able to use the magic of all 4 seasons all throughout the year. Nobody knows how or why an enchanter is picked or born. They just know that it's prestigious and you go off to a Whetherwhy school. Our book mainly centers around Juniper, who has been chosen to become an enchanter, something she doesn't really want. She just wants to be with her brother and her family and bind books, which I loved. I loved that they were book binders.
Yeah.
Just fun, She is chosen to become an enchanter. She goes off with a mage to the enchanting school, picking up several other students, Oliver and Zinnia. On the way, they are attacked. She temporarily loses her magic. They get to the school, they start learning a little bit. They kind of are trying to settle in. Juniper's magic has not yet returned. She takes a drastic action going into the waterfall, the Frostflame waterfall, I believe, and is able
Mhm.
to restart her magic and get it back. Meanwhile, Rafferty has made his way to the city and is living with another bookbinder, where he learns that they're actually part of a secret society called the Papercut Society, whose only goal is to sweetly and peacefully and definitely not maliciously or evilly ever do anything mean at all, while just so also happen to be, misrepresenting and using enchantment in any and all sorts of ways. We meet Jessamine, one of the best characters in this book, who is the daughter of one of their friends who lived with her. They get up into a little bit of hijinks. We learn that Oleander, one of the enchanters, has been working with the Papercut Society in order to help them and make money for himself so that he can go and be a Queen's Enchanter if he can make it. We learn that they have bred these plants that are able to steal the magic from people, but with unpredictable results. They buy a magic cage. Oleander kidnaps Zinnia because nobody likes her, throws her in the cage, also gets thrown into the cage because when you're an adult with poor decision making skills, like helping a secret society kidnap mages, of which you happen to be one, your trusting instincts are poor and she gets thrown in. Meanwhile, Juniper and Oliver and a couple other, and Jessamine and Rafferty rally. They help delay until the other enchanters, can get there. They're able to save the day, and everybody goes home at least moderately happy.
Wonderful.
Most of them go home very happy.
Some of them die.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, our main characters all live and are happy go
The bad
lucky.
guy. The bad
The
guy.
bad
Bad
guys
guys
die.
actually die. So
Yeah, I was a little surprised reading the end, getting to the end, and just thinking. Well, my first thought getting to the end was, I've only got 10% of book, and I've got quite a lot of story left to tell if we're finishing this story right here, right now. If this is part 1 to part 2, then, I've got a lot of leeway here. But yeah, seeing I don't remember their names right now, but the other bookbinders that are part of the Papercut Society, kind of watching them die was pretty intense.
Yes, it was.
How did you guys feel about? I mean, I wouldn't say that it was a bad thing or something you need to be like watch out for or stop kids from reading, but I do think that is something you should be prepared for if you're reading this with a kid, is to just kind of be ready to talk about that experience or see how they're feeling about it afterwards.
Mhm.
But I don't think it's anything that's too much for a kid to handle. I think they're going to see things that are similar on TV if they're watching it, or especially on
Sure.
just the general internet. Panda, what's some of your let's go with our favorite scene. What's your guys' favorite scene in this book right now, or favorite part of the story?
So, I have to admit, it was very hard not to compare, especially the school scenes, to, like, Harry Potter, for example.
Mhm.
And the parts that I did really like, I mean, all the descriptions of food, like their eating hall and okay, I don't know if this was the author's intent, but it almost seemed like there were certain things, whether it's how the school works or how the adults talk to the kids, but it was almost like a rebuttal to, like, Harry Potter. It almost felt like the author was taking more care and trying to be more, I don't know
Like,
what
involved with the
um,
kids? I would say that the kids the way that the adults talk to the kids, at least most of the time, is like the
yeah.
utopia way that parents and adults should talk to kids,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, like, the
people that are real,
idealistic
but
way.
just smaller. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Versus just like, "Do what I
Yeah.
say because I said so."
Oh, yeah, the more, like,
Yeah.
natural way, so, in
Mhm.
some sense, it almost felt stilted the way that the adults were treating the kids and talking to the kids, but I did really enjoy, how the headmistress was like, everybody here, they work together, you learn cooking, right? You're gonna help cook the meals, for everyone, and then reading the scenes about how they learn their magic and how it's like knitting, like needlework, and the whole
Mhm.
tangles and knots concepts. I thought that was really cool.
I did like the knots and tangles. Lady Chesky, what's your favorite scene?
I really enjoyed the first probably quarter of the book before they get to the magic school a lot because it was very light and happy and um, might have been because I came from reading a darker book and I needed something light and happy.
Yeah.
And but the minute I started reading this, I stayed up for like 2 hours reading this, and I actually said to Pesky, I was like, "This reminds me of Harry Potter. I can't put it down."
Oh, nice.
And so I actually made the same connection there, and I I can't remember if it was like a foreword or maybe the end of the book, but the author actually did like a little dedication, I think, to her sister, who said, "Hey, I finally wrote a book about magic, like a magic school." And so the author said that. I can't remember if it was the beginning of the book or the end of the book that I read, that she actually said, "Hey, my goal was to write a book about a magic school, and I did it."
Mm,
And so I I think there can be some correlation there with like the Harry Potter world, but I enjoyed the first part where they learned about Miss Juniper really knew that she was probably an enchanter, and she had told
mhm.
her brother, and kind of everyone was just so surprised that Juniper was an enchanter because in their little village they didn't get enchanters very often.
Right.
So,
And she's, like, so quiet
yeah,
and,
no one
Mhm.
expected it.
shy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the, I guess the rivalry, like, it's kind of stereotypical. Even in the small village, there's, like, this family who's all snooty and, they totally expect their daughter to be an enchanter, and they make a big scene about it, and then, like, the father, Juniper and Rafferty's father's way of, like, trying to combat that and still, support his kids, and I mean, if I were the parent, I would be like, "You wanna go?" Like, "You don't talk to my kids like that." Um, but, Juniper and Rafferty's dad was just, like, being more passive aggressive.
Yeah. I really like their family relationship
Yeah.
in the first couple chapters, and
Yeah.
just, in the end, it was such the way the parents interacted with the kids, I was like, "Man, this is, like, the gold standard of, like, how I should be talking to my kids and
Uh-huh.
being better, myself," and obviously, I'm not a book dad, and so I can't be perfect, but, it never hurts to aspire, but I think one of my favorite scenes is when they're riding on the moon roads
Mm,
and right after they've gotten her magic kind of sucked out and they're riding along and she can see the moon roads and then the tingles the knots start coming out. I liked it. It wasn't like, oh no, it's so horror, but it did have a little bit of that horror feel.
mm,
And I love a little bit of that horror feel, but then they get to the school grounds and they're stopped and they're safe and everybody's happy, and then the transition to the new life. And I thought that was a good scene of like showing the magic, but also showing like, hey, we're just people as well. Like, I'm just a coach driver. Like, I also happen to do enchanting, but like that's what I do, right? Is I'm the one who drives the coach the most because I
yeah.
like it, and so I liked the way it all kind of flowed together.
I did really like the concept of the knots and the tangles, and it might just be my tired mom brain, but it took me like probably more than halfway through the book to like realize that knots and tangles and the significance of that and like knitting and how
Mm,
that like all went together. I was like, oh yeah, if you had a tangle in a knitting
mhm.
thing, you would have to undo it. And if you had a knot, then it would be like really hard to undo. And so I just really like that concept, I guess.
Yeah, that kinda gives the magic more structure, more
Yeah.
logic. I mean, it could be that, Anna James really likes knitting, and that's a hobby that she just wanted
Yeah.
to pull inspiration from. I think it worked really well, in addition to the season aspect of the magic.
All right. Now, let's talk about some characters, and then I'll do a little bit of a mini rant later about some characters' poor decisions and some adults' poor decisions. Let's start with you guys. How did you feel about now that we're talking about characters? I'd say our main characters here are going to be Juniper, Rafferty, Jessamine, Oliver, Zinnia, maybe the headmistress, and the uh, the bookmakers. That's what we'll call them for right now because I don't remember their name. The bookmakers.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character? Why? What did you like?
Just Lady Cesky, wanna go first?
Sure. I think my favorite character would just be Juniper as the main character. I really liked her character growth. When she loses her magic, I don't feel like she was like overly bitter about it. She was able to like still learn at the same time as she until she was able to get her magic back. I feel like all the other characters were just fun little side characters that you learned little bits about. Her twin brother had some weird twists going on. I really liked the headmistress as well, where she was very much like, hey, we're a team, we're a community. It's kind of interesting the outside world, the way they look and view the enchanters were like, oh, the enchanters think they're so much better than everyone. But like when you actually get into the school with the
Mhm,
enchanters, it's very much, hey, we're a team. We all work together. We all help each other. We all learn from each other, no matter what level you're at.
mhm.
So I really liked how the headmistress put that together. Least favorite character would probably be, like I said, I liked Rafferty at first, and then he kind of did some weird stuff that didn't quite make sense. But again, it's a children's book, so we kind of have to give it a pass. But I don't know that there was a character that I didn't like. I mean, I didn't really like Zinnia, and I
Yeah,
think she was meant to not be liked because of her
yeah.
Yeah, she's
personality.
she's
So,
definitely from page one.
yeah,
Like I wrote that in the note. As soon as I saw her name in the first sentence out of her mouth, I put in my notes, character made to be hated. Like the bad character. I was like, this is the character that's gonna do the evil thing, or the character who something bad's gonna happen to because
Yeah.
nobody will be sad if she's gone.
She's
yeah,
like the
That's
Draco
just mean.
Malfoy.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
huh? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I agree about, the headmistress, Acantha. I guess is Acantha a plant? Because everybody has a plant name,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I
which
mean,
was
is Rafferty a plant name?
yes, I did look it up.
Uh,
Rafferty is a plant, so I'm
okay,
assuming Acantha is also a plant. I just have never heard of it.
yeah.
And the bad adults, the bad bookbinders are Laurel and Larkspur.
That's
Yeah,
what they were.
it's
I
true.
knew they both had an L.
Yeah.
Everybody did was plant. I guess like I swear there was somebody, but maybe not. So,
No,
but yeah,
I
everybody
started
was plant.
noticing the trend. I was like, "That's a lot of plant names." 'Cause there was, like, maple and then Nimbus, I guess, is also a plant. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
I really liked Juniper and Jessie. I think Jessie's character was a little flat at the beginning when we first get introduced to her, and like I get it, she's a bit more mysterious, and the point is to figure out more of her backstory as she figures out more of her backstory and she becomes more fleshed out. But the way that she was interacting with Rafferty was a little strange at the beginning, and I mean, Rafferty. Okay, so here's the thing about Rafferty, because I was really annoyed with like how easily he was swayed by Laurel and Larkspur
Oh my god.
I
about,
agree.
you know, well,
Yeah.
why do they get to be enchanters and it's not fair? Like we should be able to get, have magic too, more magic too. And I think the author was pretty close. Like she could have made it a bit more believable if she had spent a bit more time at the beginning when we first got to know these characters, the twins, and their dynamics. If she had sowed some more seeds about how Rafferty, is used to being the twin that like can do things and is like more noticed than Juniper, and
Mhm.
then make it a bit more believable about the jealousy from Rafferty finding out that, oh, Juniper's actually really is the enchanter. She gets to go to this magical academy, and like get more insight into his like conflict, his turmoil, trying to deal with like he loves his twin, his sister, and wants to support her, but at the same time he can't help but feel jealous. And I think that was supposed to kind of come through with him deciding to go to the city to basically kind of follow in Juniper's footsteps, but that part I think was a little glossed over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. A little bit more seeding beforehand would have done a lot of work. It's just the part that makes me so mad is that it goes from I'm Rafferty and I love my sister more than anything, and I know more than anything else that she's never wanted to be an enchanter, nor aspired to do anything other than be the best friend I could ever have. Hi, Laurel and Larkspur, my new boss. What? Enchanters are evil? Oh no, my sister's evil. Like, she doesn't go that far, but he's basically like, oh no, my poor sister's going to be turned evil by these evil enchanters. And it's like, whoa, 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 Rafferty, this is quite a turn you've taken on us, please.
Yeah.
Like, I actually
Yeah.
liked Laurel and Larkspur. I thought they were great villain characters because they start out really good and
Yeah.
they start out believable. And then they're like, oh, we're just having friends over. And the kids are figuring out, like, hey, that's weird. They're having friends over, but they don't want us to like be over here, like
Mhm.
different than normal things. And so I like that. I really like Jessamine. You could say that the reason she acts so cagey towards Rafferty at the beginning is because she doesn't know him and she
Sure.
doesn't want to overplay her hand to him. Maybe that's a little reaching, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rafferty just, like you said, he needs a little bit more of that. Oh, I wanted to be an enchanter. Or like he's secretly hoping he's an enchanter,
Right.
or something that could actually spark the jealousy other than like, hey, wait a minute, yeah, they do have a lot of power. And it's like, but Rafferty, you know your sister, she's never ever expressed, hey, I want to go be an enchanter and like have
Yeah.
power over people, like that's fine. And then I'll talk about the adults for 1 second. As much as I love the adults, you do not just send your kids to a night market that happens like once a month and illegal things happen at quite often. And then when you get there, you don't just be like, I'll see you in an hour. Go do whatever you want. Like, I get that it's Oleander, right? And he's not the most trustworthy person here because he's
I didn't
working
go
with the
with
Paper Cut
Oleander.
Society.
They yeah, they went with
Oh,
a different
they went with Nimbus, right?
Nimbus, and
No.
then was it Rust or something? It was
I thought it
another
started with
instructor.
was it
Okay, well,
Crimson
they
or
meet
something?
Oleander there, and that's
Oh,
why I got confused, right?
yeah.
But you don't just like, hey, 13 to 14-year-old kid in a new city for about 3 months, like, go to the night market, have a fun time, here's some money, like, don't do anything illegal that I wouldn't do. Like, and I know that's because the kids have to be the propellers of the story, and I think they do a great job of propelling the story. I want
How
everybody to
else
be
would
clear.
they how else would they be able to secretly sneak off to meet her brother as they had
Right, I
that whole
know.
plan?
Like I
What would
said,
have
I don't want
happened
it
if
to
the
be
adults were still there?
I don't want it to be sound like I'm nitpicking because I did like the book and I do. These are the things my adult
Yeah,
brain was
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
as I was reading. It was just like, wait a minute, they're gonna leave 13-year-old kids in a new city in a dangerous night market where they've had like cop arrests literally the last time they were at this market that they stuck out to it for. Like, And I love the dragon scene coming out and just being there and being like, oh wow, it's like actually a real dragon.
Yeah.
And then the cage. That was a good scene. I don't know if you guys like that scene where they're at the auction and Rafferty's with Laurel and Larkspur, and he's like, it's okay. They're just buying the books because they want to learn about enchantment. Like he's able to justify it. And then the cage comes up for sale, and he's like, that's a big cage. That's not an animal. That's like a person-sized cage in his mind. And he's like, they're not going to bid on it though. They don't need that. And then they bid on it, and he's like, oh no. And that's when it starts to like sink in for him
Yeah.
that maybe he's on the wrong side.
Mhm.
But okay, Panda, was there anything that tricked and surprised you?
Tricked or surprised me? I guess, I mean, finding out about Jessamine's backstory. We get, earlier in the story that her parents had met with an accident, and then we slowly find out how they died. It was with, the Paper Cut Society and these seeds that they were growing to sap magic out of magic users. And then I guess at the end, it was just, I don't know if it's like wish fulfillment, but her parents left her everything and she owns like this whole block of buildings.
And the deed was poorly done, so you do get the whole inheritance. Yeah, that was good. And Lady Chesky, anything?
I would say probably the scene that surprised me most was when we find out that Jessamine allowed Rafferty to be poisoned.
Be drugged.
Be drugged. There we go. That's the right
Yeah.
word. Be drugged so that he wouldn't find out or be a part of the Paper Cut Society because she wanted to do that by herself. Anyways, so that was probably the scene that surprised me most because up until then, that was not her character at all.
Right.
So
Okay, the only thing I guess that surprised me was, I would say, it's the surprise of the book ending where it ended and actually ending on a full complete story for them. I really thought this was going to be a part 1, part 2 kind of series, or that we wouldn't see the resolution of, if there was a next book, which I hope there is, that it would be a continuation of their story of Juniper and Rafferty, which is going to lead me to one of our most important questions. Is it going to be Juniper and Rafferty in the next book, or is it going to be a different set? Yeah, I'll vote my opinion first. I believe that since it's the Chronicles of Whetherwhy, that she is allowed to say characters here and then a new set of characters for book 2, because each story could be told by the grandpa, flipping to a different page in the book. So I think it's set up that way. Lady Chesky, what do you think?
I disagree. I think the way it's set up, I think that's going to continue to follow Juniper and Rafferty's story and see how their magic just progresses as they age. Kind of like Harry Potter.
All right, Panda. Now, I know you came in with some notions beforehand, but
Yeah.
which of us was the most persuasive here?
I'm so torn. Like, I could see it going either way, and I think that's kind of the beauty of what Anna James set up, is she could go either way and it would be fine. She could say, "Hey, for the next book, I actually want to do maybe like a prequel, a backstory about the queen and how does she become who she is, where apparently her father was a pretty fair ruler, but then she's definitely up to something." Or Anna James could continue with, Rafferty and Juniper storyline and stay more in the present time. And I think the grandfather even said that, I have multiple of these books. It's the Chronicles. We can, go back in time and we can to different parts. And maybe Anna James will write about what happened to the dragons, because we get snippets of really old manuscript talking about dragons. She could even write an installment based on a book that she mentions within this one. So the book within a book, I guess, within a book. Quite the inception.
Yeah.
She did a really good job of creating this magical world. I do say that. So it could go lots of directions, but
Yeah. That's the part that I'm most
I
excited
hope
for.
that Juniper and Rafferty's story continues. Maybe that's just my hope.
Yeah. I also had some thoughts about the queen, but I don't need to air them here. Just, okay, I'll air them a little bit here.
Yeah, because,
Just
like,
the
where
queen
else would you air
the
them?
queen is like the anti-utopia situation, right? In the whole world, at least as far as we know, everybody kind of looks out for each other and helps each other, especially out in their village. Now, they're in the boonies, so maybe that's just part of that, right? But it seems like the closer they get to civilization, the more greedy and everything everybody actually becomes and unwilling to share, help out, right? Especially with the queen hoarding enchanters, which is basically what everybody's trying to do. And why is she hoarding enchanters? Like, she can't, they're not going to do anything more for her there than they are. So, you know what I mean? So that's my thoughts. It's just that she's kind of the queen is this person coming in and like changing the way people think because she says, "Oh, I want enchanters. Therefore enchanters are valuable and greedy like me."
Mm,
Therefore the public starts to take that opinion as well.
mhm.
But did you guys have anything? I think we're kind of done on our time. Was there anything in this book that you guys wanted to talk about that we haven't yet?
I have 2 comments. One is, how I talked about the food at the school and, like, all the kids learn cooking, and they do, like, make it a point, like, "Why do we need to learn cooking?" And there was a pretty reasonable explanation that you're gonna be on
Mm-hmm.
the road, right? You're gonna need to know how to feed yourself, as an enchanter, on the road, and it was kind of funny that because in Harry Potter, it was the elves that did all the cooking and all the chores, and they were basically slaves. Hermione had this whole thing about, um, wages for the
Yeah.
elves. This part in the book, it almost seemed like a rebuttal to that. And then I'm interested to see where Acantha, goes, that character, the headmistress, and what's gonna happen to her because she's not the queen's favorite, and she did stand up for the kids and hold her ground against the queen, so there's
Yeah, there's
definitely some
some
conflict.
history there.
Yes, potentially some history.
Yeah, that scene was a good scene with Acantha. Lady Chesky, anything else about this book that you wanted to get out before we finish up?
Don't think so. I just really enjoyed it.
I will say I gave this book a 3, and I wasn't at first I was like, I don't think I'll read on. Like, if new books come out, I probably won't read on. But having talked about the book, I'm like, "Okay, maybe I enjoyed it a bit more, and maybe I will check out the next one whenever it comes out." Mostly because I like the world.
Yeah.
It's a good world, and that's totally fair to realize afterwards that you liked it more than you thought you did. All right. That's going to conclude our episode of the Green Team of the Legendarium, you guys. Thanks, everybody, for being here, listening with us. Thank you, of course, Panda, for reading this with us and getting it in the first place. Thank you, Lady Chesky, for being here as well.
It was
Yep.
great having you. You should come on
Thanks.
more.
We'll see.
Please come find us. You can find us on the Legendarium's Discord. You can find the link on the legendarium.com. You can follow us on Blue Sky, a couple other places online. Panda does a great job curating all of our great content out there for us. Thank you to Jingle Punks for the music, Galactic Damages, as our intro and outro music. And we hope we see you guys in the next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.